Hello, hello. Welcome again back to, let me get my arm in, the Rabell Realty Group podcast. We are here in our first week in April, so we're going to get to see some new numbers, and April is our favorite month.
That's right.
I just had a birthday. Hers is coming up near the end of the month, so happy birthday to all the Aries Aprils. We celebrate you.
Wait. We're coming up on the
and
Taurus Aprils as well.
We are in the middle of the Aries, so she's Taurus, I'm Aries.
Don't worry, Taurus, our time is coming.
Be here soon enough. So Kristen Rabell, Rebecca Johnson. Sorry, I'm not letting you speak, but
that's okay.
You will have your time. Today we have Christy Moffitt of Brightway Insurance, the Moffitt agency. Thank you. It's not on there. And we will talk about the latest news of insurance, and especially with the roofing issues and what the Senate did or actually didn't do. And she'll talk to us about how that affects us. So lots of really great information today, an informational podcast. But you want to start with your Monday Market Moment?
Yeah, let's start with the Monday Market Moment.
That took a little second.
I know.
Where was the music? Just kidding.
Okay, so let's take a look at what's happening in North Central Florida. We will just jump right in with St. Augustine. You've got 37 active. We are only focusing on the beach areas. As a reminder, you've got 2 pended so far for the month of April and 1 closed. So
there's those numbers start. Going down again. But
yep. I mean, we're only on the 4th day,
right.
Really the 3rd day in real estate. We're always a day or 2 behind. Okay, Gainesville. Oh, that's depressing.
Right.
19 active listings so far for the month of April, 35 pending, and 10 closed. So
very
nice work,
low
Gainesville.
Numbers.
They're all really low, honestly.
Look at this. For April too, which is usually like the highest month.
Oh no, April is one of our busier months. Okay, so Ocala, Marion County, you've got 71 active so far for the month of April. We are only on day 4, so I'm sure these numbers will pick up some. Pended, you have 50, and closed, there are 22, which is actually pretty impressive if you think about the closed numbers.
Right.
Because Friday was the 1st, and everybody knows that title companies and lenders don't work over the weekend, and attorneys. Mm-hmm. Since I don't know about insurance agents. I can usually reach an insurance agent on the weekend, so.
If they want to work, as we look over at Christy.
We're calling everybody out, but realtors. I know all the Rabell realtors were out there doing a great job over the weekend.
Yeah. Work.
I know, putting stuff under contract. All right, and then we will take a quick look at Tampa Hillsborough, and they had 90 active, 92 pended, and 41 closed. So that's actually...
I think pretty strong numbers also for just 4 days, and 2 of them being a weekend. So most of this stuff happens, especially the closed, on the Friday and the Monday.
We do the numbers first thing in the morning.
Early in the morning. So, yep, that's true.
So it's really just 1 day of April if we want to get all like technical about it. So
April Fools.
Just kidding. So...
All right. Well, we had a lot to talk about today, but we'll save that for next week. And we really just want to bring Christy on because she is, I would say, one of the top agents in town for insurance. We have our other one, our friend Carrie Ward, who's also watching from Darshaka. We love both of them. They always provide us with the most information that is needed when selling and buying a house, especially in this day and age. So everyone, welcome Christy Moffitt.
Hello.
Finally coming on our podcast, and your first podcast.
I know, I'm kind of nervous.
No, you're not nervous. I know you.
I'm a little nervous.
Everybody's a little nervous, but you are such a talker and you have so much information. So
that's why I'm nervous.
Yeah.
I have to keep it to a very short period of time.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit? You can talk a little bit about yourself and your agency. Very small, because I know you have a lot to talk about, but do you anything that you want to share with us?
Sure. Do I look at you or do I look at the camera?
You can look at the camera because that's where people are looking.
Okay. Hi, I'm Christy Moffitt. So I own Brightway Insurance in Hale Plantation here in Gainesville. And Brightway is a part of a franchise. There are lots and lots of them across many states, and so I happen to own the one here. And the main differentiators of Brightway are that we have customer service in Jacksonville, Florida, who really helps us with service on the back end, so we have more time and resources to sell on the front end. And then our other big one is that we have more insurance companies than almost every other agency out there. So I've got 40 homeowners insurance companies and lots of other things at my disposal. So that's
which is a lot for right now in terms of what is, who is still in Florida and who's still willing to insure in Florida.
Right. So. And the great thing about that, is that I see what's happening in the market. So I'm not just representing one or two companies.
Right.
I'm representing 80 to 90% of the market, so I can see what the trends are and what these companies are doing.
Okay, so we know that quite a few went insolvent. Well, quite a few.
Not quite a few.
A handful, less than a handful.
So
right?
we've had, St. John's recently went insolvent or declared insolvent. And luckily there's a glide path. That's our terminology in the insurance world, but a glide path for most of those customers. They were taken on by a company called Slide.
Right.
And so that one we're working on.
Okay.
Like that's still in process. And then Lighthouse Property Insurance Company has not gone insolvent yet. They had their Demotech rating pulled.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, normally that would mean the state would come in and declare them insolvent, and we'd get 30 days to move them to another company.
But that has not happened yet.
That hasn't happened, and they're domiciled in a different state. They actually operate in 4 different states.
Okay.
So it's not Florida who gets to make all those decisions. So our hope is that it gets delayed a little bit, and so we have a little more time to start moving people.
Okay. All right. Well, right. You want to be able to have that time, not just 30 days, but even longer.
It's tough. Any insurance agent out there who's got these policies, we got to help our current clients figure out a process.
Right. Okay. Okay. So tell us what's going on now in the insurance world. Do you want me to sort of go through what I've learned?
Sure.
Okay. So I've learned today that about maybe Thursday, the Senate did not pass the roofing deductible law that they were hoping to pass to help us with this whole roofing issue. So that's very layman terms, I know, but I know really very little. I just was literally texted this morning and I said, you know what, Christy's going to tell us all about this. So we've all talked about the roofing issues and how a lot of insurance agents or insurance companies are pulling out of Florida because of, and we don't really want to get into the legalities of it, but because what's going on with the roofers and attorneys, no blame, right? But there's a lot of blame there.
Just a lot of blame.
Right.
I got blame.
Right. Yes. So basically marketing to homeowners and having insurance companies pay for their roofs that maybe were slightly affected or not at all by a recent 5 year ago, up to 5 years, right? Storm.
Right.
And really, it's really an older roof that needed replacing anyways. Although I've had people call me and say, hey, this roofer is telling me that I can replace my 3-year-old roof or my 5-year-old roof. So they're just marketing to everyone. And then the attorneys are taking advantage of that by going back and saying, I could have gotten you more money, but really they're getting themselves more money.
And I have a couple of statistics to back what you're saying.
Let's do
I came
this.
prepared with a little.
Let's do
The
this.
first one is one that I've used a ton. So 8% of all property insurance claims in the U.S. are made in Florida. 8%.
8%.
Makes
Okay.
sense when you think about how big Florida is, how many people are here and how many houses. But 76% of all property insurance lawsuits in the U.S. are filed in Florida.
Right. So we are the main state where these major atrocities are happening.
We're just this beautiful place
and
for
is it
litigation.
Because of the amount of storms we have?
No.
It's
because of
the amount of attorneys we
litigious
have.
environment and the way that it's been set up that we can do this. The
so
attorneys and the
other
roofers are
states
able
do
to
not
it.
allow this to happen.
Correct.
Yes,
And there are
okay.
lots of things that they've put into place so that this doesn't happen.
Right.
The other one to help just a little bit is 100,000 property-related lawsuits happened in Florida in 2021. Every other state averages fewer than 1,000 annually.
Wow.
100,000 lawsuits in 1 year.
100,000.
So when we
And it's
joke
usually
and say
1,000.
this is a litigious state,
Yeah,
we mean it.
we're not
joking.
kidding.
No,
Right, we're
not
not-
at all. So
Okay.
so that's the current state. And you mentioned so the Senate actually did pass it, but where it got
Originally
held
they
up was
passed
in
it.
the House.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately. And last year the Senate pushed through a lot, and then it sort of got minimized by the House. So the Senate, they're our friends. The House,
It's the House
We
that's
need the
not our
House
friend.
to be
Okay.
on our side more.
And so why is it so hard to get this legislation through, knowing what's happening to homeowners and home buyers and home sellers? It's really affecting the real estate market, and it's affecting you as a homeowner as well.
So the two reasons that I've heard, the House Speaker actually has said a couple things, and one of them is that they implemented a little bit of reform last year. And his point is usually reform takes a while to get into play and make an impact. So he said, we should give this 18 months to see what it does. However, we're all kind of dying in the meantime. So that wasn't the best response.
Sure.
And then he also is concerned, which I totally get, there are people out there who this is certainly helping. So if they were on the verge of about to have to replace their roof, they have a door knocker come say, we're going to do this for free. They're on a limited income. They're able to get it through. Clearly, it's going to help them.
Sure.
So his point isn't that that's the way it should be, but he's pretty much saying if reform goes in the way that the insurance industry needs it to be, which would mean either very high deductibles on roofs, or everyone is forced to take actual cash value or a roof payment schedule on their roof instead of getting full replacement cost.
Right.
That means more people, especially people on lower incomes or
Sure.
budgets, would have to budget a ton more to replace their roof, which we would expect as homeowners.
As a
they would
homeowner,
need to
right,
It's a
'cause you're-
homeowner's expense. It's not an
Right.
insurance company. As I'm sure this is like unpopular opinion, and they'll come for me. But if you own a home, you have to budget.
take care of her. Yep.
It is not
Yes.
your fault if, I mean, I know insurance, you can make a claim on things, but if your roof is old, that doesn't mean that you just get a new one for nothing. I mean, it's,
Right.
you're there to protect them in case something catastrophic happens or damages them. Not because they didn't save over the last 10 or 15 years to put a roof on.
Right.
So,
And I don't think he realizes how difficult it is for the realtor industry and for consumers right now to find affordable insurance. That's who's, so
Which
everyone's
makes
affected,
housing
not just those
non-affordable,
people.
Right.
which is already non-affordable.
so you're going to
so-
take these people who are on limited budgets and you're giving them all free roofs, just so to speak. But now their insurance is going to be so expensive that they can't afford insurance, or they can't get it because if they have an old roof, they probably have old wiring, or they probably have an old water heater, or they probably have.
Or
you're
that claim
basically-
is now affecting them as well.
Well, so not yet.
Not
we
yet,
don't have
okay.
many companies who are holding it against people, and I should not be advertising that. But it's interesting
on
that
wood.
hasn't happened yet. I don't know if that will, or if they're going to be allowed to do that. Because
but other
officially
claims
it's
have
declared
affected.
a reasonable claim. The insurance company ends up having to pay it as a wind claim or a
Right,
hurricane claim.
right, okay.
So it's, officially a normal claim that was hurricane related.
So with everything that's happened recently, and I heard you say, or you said to me earlier, that we don't really need legislation to change this.
Well,
So-
no, I didn't say that.
Okay.
No, we absolutely
We
need
do.
legislation to
But
change
there's
it.
another way
Absolutely.
to sort of start this before legislation changes it.
Sure. So the Office of Insurance Regulation in Florida I think this week, I can't even remember when I read it, but they've figured out that there is a way that insurance companies can apply a roof deductible. They're making it so that a roof deductible will be possible.
Okay.
It won't be required, however. So a client would have the option to purchase a policy without a roof deductible or with a large roof deductible. My hope is this can be implemented by companies quickly. I mean, it takes a while to file new rates and new rules with the OIR. So I don't know how quickly this will happen. But the other thing that we were talking about is I really am curious to see what the pricing will look like. Because if it's not advantageous for the person to take a roof deductible, if they're not saving $500 or $1,000 on the policy for it, they're likely not going to take it. And so our environment won't change much.
So what is this equivalent to in terms of deductibles and anything else in insurance?
So they're looking at a 2% deductible. Is that what you mean?
No, but okay, that's another
Or like
answer.
a copay
Right.
on your medical insurance,
Right.
your health insurance, right? Yeah. So in this situation, it would be 2% of your dwelling value. So if your home is insured for $200,000, then you'd be responsible for $4,000 when you need to replace your roof.
Right.
If it was an insurance claim, a valid insurance claim. Yes.
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, I could
But-
see where the house is probably at too. They're probably afraid of swinging the pendulum too far, and then it just hurts everybody. But again, we're kind of in like a weird
We're in a
catch-22
weird limbo,
because
catch-22.
it's you need to swing it hard so that it stops, because otherwise you guys will be gone, right? And nobody will have insurance, and which means nobody can have a mortgage because you have to have homeowners insurance, right?
Or insurance for a mortgage.
Right.
Mhm.
So we're kind of in a hard spot because you need to swing it hard, but they don't want to swing it so hard that it hurts a lot of people, but it's already hurting a lot of people. So I don't know. So
I
what
mean,
can we
isn't it
do?
kind of hurting everyone?
It's hurting
truthfully?
everybody.
It is.
You know?
So the only people I found it hasn't hurt are the people who just got new roofs. They're pretty
Sure.
happy.
Okay.
And then we do work with a lot of people whose rate increases haven't been drastic. So if the home is less than 5 years old, let's say, they're not getting enormous rate increases.
Okay.
But for the rest of us who have, I have a 1960s home, the rates are going up. I mean, they're
Yeah, we're getting a
going up.
lot of calls saying, "Oh my gosh, my insurance rate just went up. How
Or
am I
it's
going to
just
afford this?"
really hard to sell a house.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, it's getting very hard.
And that's why we have you on here for, hopefully there's that one person who hasn't been listening, or finally, they can watch this later on Facebook or on our YouTube page, or if you share it, someone can see this and they go, "Oh, that's why my realtor is telling me I have to replace my roof. Otherwise I can't, it's not going to be possible to sell it."
Right.
Even in this crazy market. Now, obviously, if you have a cash buyer, they might be able to say, "Oh, I'm not going to get insurance right now," but who's doing that? You're still wanting to get insurance. And if there's lack of insurance because of the old roof, it's just a circle.
Exactly.
It's a terrible cycle. So great information. Let's take our break that we need, and then we'll come back and talk more. Oakmont is Gainesville's newest luxury development, bringing sophisticated resort-style living to Alachua County, balanced with nature on 550 acres, serving as a sanctuary featuring playground areas, walking paths, and towering live oak trees throughout the landscape. Oakmont offers residents a sense of unspoiled natural beauty. For those who treasure green space and cherish an active lifestyle in the great outdoors, Oakmont offers residents a perfect combination of amenities such as multiple tennis courts, Olympic-sized pool, amphitheater, multi-purpose activity field, and a community center with ample space for hosting large corporate events. Oakmont features a grand entrance which creates an inviting sense of arrival. New homes are offered by several of the area's top builders and start in the mid-300,000s. Please visit buysellarbell.com to search for your new home in Oakmont. All right, welcome back to the Rabell Realty Group podcast. We have Christy Moffitt of Brightway Insurance Moffitt Agency here, and we're talking more insurance. We don't want to go into gloom and doom, so we're going to try to stick away from that, right? Because it can feel that way. But Christy's here to give us information so we can feel empowered. The more we know, the more we can be ready. So we've asked her to talk about how do you talk to homeowners who maybe call you and say, "I've got this rate increase," or "I've been canceled. What do I do?" And especially if they're in panic mode.
So my first thing is always call your agent. So a lot of times we get calls directly from people who are very angry at their current agent because the rate went up. I will tell you, your agents have really nothing to do with this. The insurance companies are the reason that the insurance rates are going up, or they're dictating what's happening, and your agent's there to help you. So make sure you call the agent that you have and see how they'd be able to help you. And if they can't, certainly call another agent. But what's going to happen if you're canceled or non-renewed, a lot of times there's an opportunity for you to fix whatever it is that they have an issue with. Progressive was big in the news in the past couple months because they declared they were going to be non-renewing pretty much every home in Florida that has a shingle roof over 15 years old. Right. And that's tough. That's 56 to 57,000 people in the state. I've talked to tons of them, and a lot of them have chosen to go ahead and replace their roof. That's certainly not an option for everyone. But if you replace your roof because it was 22 years old or whatever it is, and you'd been thinking about it, then if you can do that, then you can stay on the books. If not, then you really need to work with an agent who's got a lot of options who can find something for you. But I will tell you, if your roof is approaching 20 years old or over 20, you're going to be very limited on who could take you.
And those are expensive limitations.
Or it's Citizens.
Or
so Citizens, the insurer of last resort, they will take shingle roofs up to 25 years. But even they are getting super picky, and they need the life of the roof to be at least 3 years or more. The inspection has to say that in order for them to take it. So they've become actually a very suitable option for a ton of people. We've written gobs with Citizens in the past year just because we're so limited on markets. So those are a couple of the things. And then you wanted me to talk about...
Well, that brings up a lot of questions, but I know we don't have so much time. But, with so many people going to Citizens, does that become a burden on Citizens?
It absolutely does. You want me to talk about that?
Sure.
Oh man, I was wanting to bring it up, but you told me not to get all doom and gloom.
I know. I just feel like this is something that you would want to know if you have the option to, and you can pay for a new roof, or if you're like, oh, I'll just go over to Citizens. It's probably best to get that new roof rather than go to Citizens. And then what happens when Citizens has too many of these insurance policies?
So there are some coverage gaps when you move over to Citizens, and it depends on your situation. They don't cover certain things very well, like screen enclosures or other structures. They don't give I don't need to go into it, but
Sure.
I explain it to people before I place them with Citizens, and they get to decide if that's going to be okay for them. So that's one sort of detrimental thing, is there's a gap in coverage. But what happens if we have a major claim situation that affects a lot of Citizens policyholders? Citizens will not have enough money to pay those claims. So what ends up happening is, because they're backed by the government will loan them the money, so the claims will get paid. But then that loan has to be paid back, and it's going to be paid back first by Citizens policyholders. So there are assessments that will be added to a Citizens policy right after this occurs. Then, when that's not enough money, because it most likely won't be, we are all assessed. So every homeowner that has insurance in the state of Florida will then get assessed.
Yeah.
And those assessments can last for a long period of time on all of our policies. So it's in our best interests as a Floridian who owns a home to make sure Citizens does not balloon. And have they ballooned? Yes. They're actually approaching, they should be at 1 million policies soon. I mean, we're putting 5,000 to 6,000 policies with Citizens a week. It's,
Wow.
there's nowhere else to go. So we're putting them there.
Let's put all of our eggs in one basket, and then it was a warm winter, so you know what that typically means for storm
that's
season.
the thing. It's what could cause this huge problem with them
Where did
is a
the
storm coming in.
Oh, yeah.
And completely,
Absolutely.
All insurance
decimating.
companies.
Yeah, of course.
So where does the assessment get billed to? That's other Citizens policyholders?
So first to Citizens policyholders. Yep.
Okay.
And then after they've maxed it out, so I should know, but I can't remember the percentage that they would have the assessment
Yeah.
up to. Then once that's been capped, then it goes to all
Everybody
the other.
else.
So
Okay.
every insurance company that operates in the state of Florida would have assessments that are.
What happens if you go over to Citizens, get the roof, stick with them for a year, then jump ship to another insurance company?
That's actually what we're doing. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a Band-Aid
then
approach
it's-
that works.
Right.
Well, but then if they have the assessments and everybody's jumping ship and going elsewhere, and nobody's paying the assessment, I
Well,
guess they
they'll
just
have
pass
fewer
it on.
claims though. So, if instead of having 1 million policyholders, they were down to 400,000 policyholders, there's much less risk.
Yeah. And then
But you've still
the
paid for all
other
the roofs.
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't want this. No one wants
I'm just
them
saying,
to
it
be
sounds like
paying
there's
for all
like
the roofs.
100 ways to get a free roof in insurance.
Oh, I'm
It
sorry.
seems
I didn't
like-
know
yeah.
you meant that.
Yeah,
no,
yeah, that's
I
what I
meant
was
like
thinking.
the client pays for the new
Oh,
roof.
okay, good. All right. That's
So a
fine.
lot of times what's happening though is that we have people call, there's a 19-year shingle roof, they've had a claim, no one will take them in the normal market. Citizens will take them if the roof has 3 years of life left. I put them with Citizens with the understanding they're about to get a roof on. They pay for themselves or
Okay,
the sellers
all right.
pay for. There's some sort of credit, through the transaction. And then they put the new roof on and then we move them away from Citizens.
Okay.
So our hope is they don't stay with Citizens long.
Perfect.
Now, I think what you were saying that kind of confused it is that if there's so many other claims, like a storm comes in and there's like loss of house claim, right? And then Citizens has so many of those insurance holders, right? And Citizens pay that assessment, right? Or pay that
They pay up to there's a
a
cap of what
percentage.
they
And
would
then
have to pay.
if there's any more that has to be paid because that cap is fulfilled, then the rest of us pay to help them, not go under. So yes.
So-
So we don't want them at Citizens. We don't want you at Citizens. Now,
No, we
here's a
don't.
question I have that if you decide not to stay at Citizens, you're dropped. But how long do you have to be able to replace that roof or whatever, reason you're dropped for? Because there's other reasons that you can be dropped.
How long
or
is your
not,
time to cure?
Or not recur. Right. How long is your time to cure? Because then you come into the issue of what roofers are out there and available in a short amount of time. The ones that are not as good are probably the shorter amount of time than the ones that are good. So, why you laugh?
It's true though. Yes.
Okay. So, that being said, and I'm not naming any names,
you're not.
we're not
Please
saying
don't name
who.
any
No,
names.
of course not. But stop, don't name a name. No, just kidding. But how long do they have? Because if you're dropped, are you just going to place them over at Citizens until they get that roof? Is that the only option, or are there other options that they know within 3 months they're getting that roof? It's on schedule. They have it that says it's on schedule, and the roofer's going to show up that day as long as there's not a storm or rain, right, to replace it.
The answer to this question is different than it was 2 years ago.
Yes,
2
I know.
years
I
ago,
know.
a lot of companies would have worked with us on that. But these days, it doesn't work like that. They are extremely black and white at this point, most of them at least. So even Citizens doesn't work with us on things like that as often as they used to. Every
Okay.
once in a while, maybe. So there are options outside of the standard market in Citizens.
Okay.
The problem is they're very expensive. And 2, they generally limit coverage. So they wouldn't give you any coverage for your roof if it's over a certain age at all. And then they're also going to take away your water damage coverage. So if there was water intrusion through your roof because of a storm, you had a couple shingles come up, all the rain came in, whatever happened, they're not covering your inside and they're not covering your personal belongings.
Okay, but you said there was an option. If you're dropped or if you're non-renewed, call your agent and they can find an option for you. But you have to cure that. But again, there's no time to cure it.
Right.
They don't give you any time to cure it.
So I will say, so the progressive non-renewals, the people found out very early. So if they had decided to put a new roof on, most of them were given a good period of time.
Okay, so they say we're not renewing you in 6 months because of this.
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
And they're not all like that. The other thing we run into that people don't realize, a lot of people think when we write an insurance policy for someone, it's there. Like they're not canceling them in the first year. No, the insurance companies have a 90-day discovery period and they get to decide after we submit all the information and say it's a bound policy, there is active coverage. They get 90 days to go do their own inspection, review all the information we've provided, and they can get off of the risk if they choose to.
Right.
That's happening constantly right now because all the companies are
in that 90-day inspection period, they will also have you change some things and say, we're not going to continue you unless you do these.
It depends. Some will just say, we don't want you at all. Most of the time, though, it might be something small. But if it's a roof situation, they're not going to give you enough time to go replace the roof unless you already had a contract in place right when you bought the house.
Or you find a roofer that you're fine with and they can get on quickly.
Yes.
Okay.
You got it.
So Susan has a question, which I think is kind of about what we were going to. What about houses insurance for closing? What's the options? This is very vague, actually, now that I've read it.
Susan, can you clarify?
Yeah, can you clarify? But in the meantime, we need to let our other realtors know how to speak to, or ourselves, how do we speak to our sellers in this environment? And when we know, or there's a potential, issue that can come up, it's not just roofs, it's electrical issues now, plumbing issues. There's a lot of plumbing that they're not taking. Again, lots and lots of cloth wiring is out there that they're not accepting anymore. And if you have the danger zone of all 3 of these, or 2 of these, or one of those with a past claim, again, we're having trouble. So what are some things that you are helping realtors talk about when they're meeting with their clients?
So it's interesting because I feel like the sellers right now don't have to do anything. This is the vibe I'm getting from all the buyers.
I don't
feel that
so
way
it's
at
good
all.
for me to hear that. So good. Okay. So as far as sellers go, the roof is the number one most important thing.
Okay.
So if the roof is over 15 years old and it's shingle, your buyers are going to have a more difficult time. Can they find coverage? Absolutely. If everything else is fine with the house. But if there are lots of other things involved, like cloth wiring or an old water heater, things along those lines.
Rusty water heater even? Rusty, which is usually old.
Right, yeah. But they might not be. Yeah, we've seen that before. It's 8 years old and it looks rough and the insurance company doesn't want it. Yeah. So what insurance companies say on paper doesn't always apply at underwriting time. So yeah, it's interesting. So my best recommendation, because every situation is different, is have an established relationship with an insurance agent that you love as a realtor. Whoever it is, call them and say, can you insure this house? And if they come back and say, nope, or yes, I can, but it's going to be $5,000 and no buyer is going to want to do that, ask the insurance agent exactly what
does that trigger anything with the house and the current insurance they have on there?
No.
What if you are insuring that house already and obviously back in the day I could call the insurance agent of the listing of the house we're putting on for sale and say, can you now cover the new buyer? And they could easily transfer it, but we're not in that world anymore. So would it trigger anything negative for that seller?
Okay, maybe. So
if
that's
it's the same
very
one.
tricky question. Yes, because as an insurance agent, we represent both sides.
Yeah.
And if we find out something about a home that we didn't know, we are supposed to disclose it to the insurance company.
So maybe find out who they are currently insured with and call another trusted one. That's why we have 2, right? 2 or 3.
I mean, it's not a bad idea.
I mean, unless you want to sort of, kick your seller's butt, to get them started. But yes, that's something I have to notate because that's happened before to us. Again, are you able to say you can insure this? Because I know that oftentimes it's like, oh no, the new buyer has to call me and they have to give their information. So how can you say yes when you don't have their information?
So good point. One of the big things that comes into play is the insurance companies run insurance scores, most of them. So credit characteristics are used as a part of that.
Yep.
And that can knock out certain companies.
Okay.
Because some of them have thresholds, and if your insurance score is too low, they won't even take you. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is prior claims can be a huge factor. So I'm working with buyers now who are looking at homes that have roofs that are coming in on the 20-year mark. And because they had one mold claim right over 3 years ago.
The house had one more.
No, the client.
Buyer. Yes.
On
Okay.
their
I was going to
old
get into
home.
that next. Yep.
Yeah. It follows you where you go as a consumer. And so because of that, they are extremely limited, because the companies I have that will take the older roofs won't take prior claims in the past 5 years.
Right.
So, it'd be different depending on the buyer, which insurance companies I could put them with.
Okay, so this is something I want to say for customers out there, who are looking to buy or sell, that are watching the show, and or realtors. This is why it's good to have a realtor who's knowledgeable. As a realtor, a listing agent, we know to call our trusted agents, not the current one that the house is insured with, right? So find a couple others. We know this. We know that it's probably best to find. I asked these questions, but I knew most of those answers. I don't know all the questions about all the other insurance stuff, but I know this. But you have a trusted agent who can do this for you to make sure so that your house is prepared to sell. And then on the buyer side, I think this is very clever, is that you find out beforehand. You get an insurance agent for that buyer beforehand, possibly, to find out if they have any claims, to see what their what their insurance score is. Does that sound like a good, smart thing to do?
Yeah, or just start as early in the process as possible.
So putting your house on, or putting that offer on, you get it accepted. Typically back in the day, we would wait until after inspections, after appraisal to get that insurance. No, start it immediately. And that's what we're doing.
Right.
We're starting it immediately.
And it's really good to get, because Citizens just changed their guidelines. You probably know this, but Citizens requires 4-point inspections at 20 years at this point. And in the past, I would have always said, no way, you don't need it at the 20-year. Yeah, you do.
So when you're getting an inspection, you're also upfront just going ahead and paying for that 4-point. Just saying, yes, I need a 4-point.
Or telling the inspector, we are reserving our right to get a 4-point inspection. Right. Will you please take all the photos?
They'll take the photos anyways, and you just call them. But at the first call, when you're getting that, I need a home inspection and I need a 4-point, and probably a wind mitt. Now tell us a little bit about when you need a wind mitt.
So wind mitts, I usually recommend them if the roof was put on since 2002. Okay. Almost all of them have at this point. But when you talk metal or tile, which we don't have a lot here, but metal and tile, a lot of them are older than 2002. So I recommend them after that. Now, I have a lot of inspectors tell me that you don't need it if the home is a newly built home.
It's
and
still
that
good to
may
have.
be true, but there is still one credit that could potentially be there. The inspector would know probably right away if they were going to get that credit or not. But I encourage pretty much everyone, if the roof was put on since 2002, go ahead and get
a brand new house.
I say talk to your inspector, because there's only one little credit that you could probably get. And to be honest, in Gainesville, we rarely see it. So you probably don't need it for a brand new home around here.
All right. Okay. Well, all good stuff. We don't have any other questions up there, but I mean, there's always questions with insurance. So
Susan,
if you
didn't want to clarify?
I guess not, unless it didn't come back up. But she could probably clarify it later. We'll get that answer from you, or have you answer on there, because it's on our Facebook page where they ask. So you can go on. I can tag you. You can go on there. But if you do have any questions about insurance, or want to make sure your house that you're putting an offer on, or your current house is still insurable, right?
Yes.
Call Christy Moffitt. Do you want to give your number? We don't always put the number up there.
Sure. 352-519-1900. And can I put in one plug or a favor? All right.
For sure.
So we've been talking about legislative issues and how,
do this.
So my huge ask of anyone watching is, the only way we're going to see a lot of relief in the insurance market and the realtor market when it comes to insurance is if we have legislative changes. So I am very humbly asking you to contact your legislators. We need a special session to be called. Governor DeSantis just recently said, I welcome the idea, but I'm not going to push the issue. And then later he said, we hope to have it in November or later. we need it before then, if at all possible. So I can give you a link.
Perfect.
It's very easy. There's a little, you can read about it, and then you just push a button that says take action, and you can contact your legislators.
Okay. Yep. Send that to
Perfect.
us. We'll put it on this podcast, and we'll also put it on our page because I think that's really
Awesome.
important.
Thank you so much.
All right. And thank you, Christy. It's been wonderful. You always have so much information.
Thank you.
And you come to our office, and we love to have you there too. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. If you have a property that you do not want to sell, which would be smart because real estate is a hedge on inflation, so it's a good time to have investment property. But if you have one and you do not want to manage it, we are here for you to be your leasing agent, your accountant, repairman, inspector, landlord, you name it. We take care of it and keep it hassle-free for you. You can reach us at 352-213-6410.
All right. Sounds good. And if you're looking to join a team or get into real estate or maybe change your real estate career, why don't you call us at 559-8820 or email us at join@buysellrebell.com. Clearly, we have lots of people who help us know what to do in this market.
That's true. And if you can't get enough of Rabell Realty Group or Kristen and Rebecca, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Google+. We'll have information from Christy to share with you all later.
Our YouTube page. Thank you. Subscribe. All right. And did you know we have a blog? And actually, this is a great blog topic. We've talked about it before. We can, reiterate this blog and also have that link on there as well so that you know how to contact your legislator. And you can find it at buysellrebell.com/blog.
And we'd like to thank the Fiesta Media for putting on this podcast and all of the other Rabell Realty Group podcasts. If you are interested in a podcast of your own, you can reach them at 352-327-5089.
All right. Thank you. Join us next week at 2 o'clock. Again, the Rabell Realty Group podcast. Tune in every Monday at 2. We'll see you then. Thank you. Bye.